Today is March 9th, 2016, and the Associated Press is telling us that the federal government, they say, wants to require the Ferguson Police Department to check all new hires against a database that they apparently have of officers who have been stripped of their law enforcement licenses for misconduct. This mandate, that is the wording they are using, the mandate to consult the National Decertification Index, received little notice in the government's proposed agreement to reform the police and court systems in the St. Louis suburb. So apparently they have completed their investigation into corruption and civil rights violations there in and around St. Louis, Missouri, and they suggested that they use this database. All officers' new hires to be checked against this database. This database contains the names of about 20,000 former officers who were pushed out of law enforcement. They're saying that this index has been used inconsistently, and many officers who are stripped of their badges in one jurisdiction are free to move to another. Well, if you remember back when Michael Brown was first killed, some stuff did come out about Darren Wilson and some other officers who apparently had problems in other jurisdictions and ended up there in Ferguson. It goes on to state here that criminal justice advocates have long called for the creation of a clearinghouse of information on bad cops, similar to the National Practitioner Data Bank, which tracks malpractice lawsuits and complaints against doctors. Now, Congress so far has rejected those calls, and also it is being opposed by some law enforcement groups, particularly police unions, worried about creating a blacklist. Congress has been debating this National Police Registry since 1996, because going back to that time, one union official compared the idea of this National Police or Bad Cop Registry, we'll call it, to the witch hunts of Salem. The bill failed, of course. Well, Raymond Franklin, who is a retired director of Maryland's Police Standards Agency and one of the creators of the index, stated, quote, "Law enforcement was late getting into the registry business. Every profession has it now, and quite frankly, nobody ever talks about the National Practitioner Data Bank for doctors being a blacklist. You would expect that there would be a source of information about how doctors could have problems. If adopted, the requirement for Ferguson would be unusual. When police departments in Cleveland or Albuquerque, New Mexico negotiated major agreements following shootings by officers, the Justice Department did not require them to begin using the index." Well, that tells me that these bad cops moving from one jurisdiction to another, they had to find more than one officer in those departments that had run afoul out there and decided to come on in and play the infield in Ferguson. Well, the Ferguson deal was put on hold last month after city officials there rejected the cost of implementing the 127-page plan. So these city officials rejected it because of the cost. Everybody knows that most of the population there in Ferguson are African American, or as some call them, black. And these city officials rejected it, their safety, because of this cost thing. Then on Tuesday, the city council seemed to change course again, setting a March 15th vote to reconsider the deal. So it seems like the Justice Department sniffing dogs found some meat, and evidently this has to be being used as leverage for them to, sorry folks, for them to do the right thing. And that is just sad, isn't it? It's just not right. However, I'm glad to see that the Justice Department, old Loretta Lynch, doing her job in this regard. The proposed settlement followed the government's highly critical assessment of Ferguson's law enforcement and legal systems after a white officer shot and killed Michael Brown, an unarmed 18-year-old black resident. This was already 2 years ago, people. The Justice Department later cleared Darren Wilson, concluding that evidence backed his claim that he shot Brown in self-defense. Now, seems like the Ferguson Police Department now has to do their part in this deal. And that is what the people really want, is some major changes in that department and how they are treated by that department. I see nothing wrong with that. So, even states that are relatively aggressive in identifying bad officers, such as Georgia, do not participate because their record keeping differs too much from the national index, and the effort to convert the information would be time consuming and costly, Georgia officials said. So that was Georgia's bullshit excuse. That goes to show you that there's a problem in Georgia. Atlanta's in Georgia, people. What do I mean by that? Well, Atlanta has a large population of African American people in it. This must be a problem in this country. And if you can't see it, and you're one of those that have enough balls to get out there and be vocal about how you don't think that this is a problem in America, then maybe you should do your due diligence and get your butt down to your nearest hood and see how it is. This has been Me the People. Break this news.